So it's going on 5 years now, having The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard appear within awareness, no pun intended, and applying it to my daily life. So I'd like to discuss my latest reflections in 2023 on this book, and I trust you'll find this discussion to be complementary and encouraging to your own application of his information. He says, "The light is consciousness. Consciousness is one, manifesting in legions of forms or levels of consciousness. There's no one that is not all that is, for consciousness, though expressed in an infinite series of levels, is not divisional. There's no real separation or gap in consciousness." Now, this has transformed my relationships to such a degree that when I imagine someone in my presence now, and by now I mean as far as my senses perceive, I know that they feel what I feel, so thus I assume the responsibility to imagine them lovingly. And if they're not within my awareness, then any memory I have of them in my seeming past is subject to reimagining them lovingly, if applicable. For I know that when they do show up in my presence again, they will reflect what I have imagined them to be in mutual harmonious relationship with me. Now, to go deeper into this aspect of consciousness being non-divisional, he states, "I am is a feeling of permanent awareness. The very center of consciousness is the feeling of I am. I may forget who I am, where I am, what I am, but I cannot forget that I am. The awareness of being remains regardless of the degree of forgetfulness of who, where, and what I am." So acknowledge for a moment your existence, your aliveness, your conscious of being, beyond thoughts and mind, emotions and body, and everything that is experienced via the five senses. There you reveal your eternal and formless self, awareness. Now you can change your thoughts and how you perceive your five sensory conceptions of yourself and your relationship with the outer aspects of your life. However, that sense of awareness is the same in your brother, sister, child, neighbor, as we all communally share this same awareness. It is from this foundation, the formless self, that we initiate the changes that we would like to experience in our lives, as he says here. Everything depends upon its attitude towards itself. That which it will not affirm as true of itself cannot awaken in its world. That is, your concept of yourself, such as I am strong, I am secure, I am loved, determines the world in which you live. Now one may look around at the outer aspects of life, their world made visible, and consciously say, "This is not where I desire to live." And this is a wonderful realization. They can then ask themselves the question, where do I desire to live? And upon their mind's eye, they imagine a place that they would personally consider to be ideal. And they experience the feeling of the wish fulfilled in imagination. They see the promise of what is to come and they commit to what they love. As he states, all transformation is based upon suggestion. And this can work only where you lay yourself completely open to an influence. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled until your assumption has all the sensory vividness of reality. You must imagine that you are already experiencing what you desire. That is, you must assume the feeling of the fulfillment of your desire until you are possessed by it. And this feeling crowds out all other ideas out of your consciousness. So, for example, a while back I was going to California a lot. I loved Redondo Beach. I would run there in the morning listening to Earl Nightingale's Strangest Secret, the smell of the ocean. I could barely hear in the backgrounds the waves and the surfers. Some of my most memorable experiences were in California. The nights out, the art shows, down to the consciousness-altering conversations, we could say, with friends as we walked down the Venice boardwalk. Now, on one trip, I imagined and accepted it. I said, wouldn't it be nice to stay in California for a year and enjoy a nice lifestyle? And I could see it clearly in my mind's eye. I accepted it. And after accepting it, the only seeming obstacles were that I could only stay for 6 months with the current entry requirements, and in order to do business there, I would need a special visa. However, I saw it in my imagination, and imagination creates reality, so I know everything would be taken care of. Even the place I wanted to stay. Every now and then I'd book it on Airbnb. It was my favorite. It felt like home. And we're taught to imagine that you already have what you desire and move on with your life. And to relate, he quotes John 8:32. He then expands upon by articulating, "What greater gifts could be given to you than to be told the truth that will set you free?" The truth that sets you free is that you can experience in your imagination what you desire to experience in reality. And by maintaining this experience in imagination, your desire will become an actuality. So I had this lease in Toronto for a year, which needed to end, and also this visa situation that had to be figured out. I ended up teaching this speed reading workshop in Toronto, and one of the students, after a while, I ended up seeing him at the gym that I was going to. And he mentioned to me that he was looking for a place to stay for some months, essentially the duration of my lease. So I mentioned my place to him. He came to see it, and it was a perfect match for him. And so now I have someone to sublet my place because the agent I usually work with to find these places has a number of landlords she works with, and I wanted all these relationships to be harmonious and not abruptly terminate the lease. So as far as the visa goes, I became aware of this new one that was not within my awareness before, thanks to the power of awareness, and it's the Management Consultant TN visa, the only one I qualified for. So I called up a client in LA who used to always say, "When are you going to come down and work over here with us? We love having you around." And I mentioned to them that this visa is an opportunity where we can work together if I got approval for it. So they ended up signing the paperwork. And so the interesting thing about this visa is the way you get approved is you actually bring your paperwork to the border. So you have your flight book, and they either approve or reject you at US Customs at the Toronto airport. So I gave my keys to the place, went to the airport, and if I got rejected, well, then I have to go back and figure that out because my place was leased. So there was a lot of moving parts here. So it turns out that they approve it. And I got to stay in California for a year. As a matter of fact, I did another renewal, so I was actually there for 2 years, most of the time. I was flying out here and there. And I also got to stay at the Airbnb rental that I wanted. It just so happens that he had the place to stay for that availability, which was rare. And what was also quite fun is living in California, a car would be ideal for me. My option was either to buy a car or to rent one. And this wonderful convertible Porsche showed up on Turo, the app where people used to rent out their cars. And the owner, it turns out, was actually a bit concerned about having too many people renting out the car too often, just in case of damage. So when I said I was going to be there for a while, he let me have it for a nice longer-term deal, which ended up also being mutually beneficial for both of us. All of this happened as a result of imagining what I desire, committing to it, and observing as it unfolded in a wonderful bridge of incidents in which so many that were involved in the orchestration all benefited from it. This is the power of awareness. And so we see that all roles are played joyously by all involved in a mutually harmonious way to realize your vision. And it also seems to be what everyone else involved wants as well, as far as your five sensory awareness perceives. He says, hold fast in your imagination to all that is lovely and of good report, for the lovely and the good are essential in your life if it be worthwhile. Assume it. You do this by imagining that you already are what you want to be and already have what you want to have. Be still and know that you are that which you desire to be, and you will never have to search for it. So what do you desire? What do you want? What do you love? Assume that it is already yours and fulfill it in your imagination. The subconscious has ways beyond conscious reasoning power, and all roles are played to fulfill that which you have accepted which was always yours to begin with. Sometimes I wonder, as I apply this information, was all of this going to happen anyways? As he says here, precognition permeates all the scriptures of the world. So we accept that what we desire is already ours and it happens. If there are lots of signs that it's happening along the way, then great. If there are a few signs, then great. If there are no signs, then great. For we are taught in 2 Corinthians 5:7, for we live by faith, not by sight. Some way, somehow, it will happen, and I leave that to the power that transcends personal identity. Anything you imagine is possible. Never limit yourself, imagine what you love, and accept that it's already yours to experience and go on with your life, as he says here. Creation is finished. Creativeness is only a deeper receptiveness for the entire contents of all time and space, while experienced in a time sequence, actually coexist in an infinite and eternal now. This is all about what you are conscious of being now, and it is what you suggest to yourself. Reality works the way you say it does. And it makes a lot of sense then, because creation is finished. Creativeness is only a deeper receptiveness. So you receive your desires within. You select in your imagination from what already happened in the eternal now. And the subconscious weaves a story, a seeming bridge of incidents, which seems to connect all that we have imagined and accepted as true as a wonderful tapestry we call bridge of incidents to realizing our vision. To further emphasize, he states, this is what is meant by creation. And the statement that creation is finished means nothing is ever to be created. It is only to be manifested. What is called creativeness is only becoming aware of what already is. You simply become aware of increasing portions of that which already exists. So you become aware then of what already exists in your imagination, and you accept whatever you desire as yours. The way it feels as you keep doing this is it was going to happen anyways. It's so obvious, natural, and that's because you initiated it in imagination. Your formless self fused with what already exists revealed in your imagination, and it plays out as wonderful life experiences. This is the art of your mind. All is mind, your universe is mental. As he states, if creation is finished, and all events are taking place now, the question that springs naturally to the mind is, what determines your time track? That is, what determines the events you encounter? And the answer is your concept of self. Concepts determine the route that attention flows. Here is a good test to prove this fact. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and observe the route that your attention follows. You will observe that as long as you remain faithful to your assumption, so long will your attention be confronted with images clearly related to that assumption. For example, if you assume that you have a wonderful business, you will notice how in your imagination your attention is focused on incident after incident relating to that assumption. Persistence in that assumption will result in actually experiencing, in fact, that which you assume. The same is true regarding any concept. So how does one remain persistent? Well, effortlessly, actually, by encouraging inner conversations from the premise of your vision already realized. Now, I'm speaking of inner conversations. You need not speak about it with anyone, what you have done in your imagination, with others if you don't feel like it. It is what you do inside imagination, in secret, that plays out anyways. The outer is consciousness reflected. As he says here, concentrate on thoughts or moods which you deliberately determine. Then those things that now restrict you will fade and drop away. The day you achieve control of the movements of your attention in the subjective world, you are the master of your fate. So your subjective world is inside. Reality is inside, and the outer is an expression or reflection of your consciousness. It is your consciousness outpictured. So again, working with this, we apply the principle of least effort. It is easy, mere assumption, like, that's the way it is. This is how I imagine it happens. The subconscious accepts the suggestion and plays it out, weaves it as part of the other suggestions we have accepted as true, as our life experiences. As I quoted this on Thursday's video as well, one of my favorites, because you can change anything by self-suggestion. He says, least action is the minimum of energy multiplied by the minimum of time. Therefore, in moving from your present state to the state desired, you must use the minimum of energy and take the shortest possible time. Your journey from one state of consciousness to another is a psychological one. So to make the journey, you must employ the psychological equivalent of least action. And the psychological equivalent is mere assumption. So you imagine that's the way it is. And remember, body and all is an expression of your consciousness and moves automatically by law. And lovingly so does everything and everyone. And there's one consciousness, and all roles are played by what we are conscious of being now. This is the law. People show up in a mutually harmonious way to contribute your vision, and you contribute to theirs, heaven on earth. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You can say, I commit to what I love as all roles are played to bring forth into experience what I select from the infinite that exists within me. Creation is complete, and everyone and everything in harmony with my vision shows up in mutual integrity to lovingly reflect what I saw and accepted in imagination. I walk by faith as body moves naturally, effortlessly, and authentically by higher law to realize my vision in a fun, joyous, blissful way. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.